All right, everyone. So let's go to get started. In case you are not aware of who I am, my name is Stephanie Delgado, and I'm the Education Manager here with Hayes Software Systems. And that means that I'm involved in all things that related to ensuring that our customers have the knowledge that they need to be successful in utilizing our products. Specifically, we'll be talking about TIPWeb-IM items. For those that are coming in, if you could please go ahead and mute yourself. Thank you. Now, of course, you can always just real quickly, you can always unmute yourselves if you have a question or comment. We love those. You can always put them in the chat as well. Yeah, my role does definitely encompass all those pieces of education. It could be step-by-step documentations, it could be videos, stuff like today, hopping on, having some live conversations about processes. Additionally, of course, training aspects, so ensuring that our customers are receiving the training that they need as well to, again, be successful. Hey, Ange, do you want to go ahead and just introduce yourself?
Well, sure. Good afternoon, everyone. As Steph mentioned, thanks for joining. My name is Angie Zuniga. Work on the support team as a customer experience manager. So I have some of my accounts out there. I see Martha and a lot of my P2CPS folks on. So welcome. And just here to provide support to staff and my team and answer any questions, brainstorm with you guys, but super excited. Thank you so much, Steph, for hosting us today.
Yeah, I'm excited too, Ange. Kathy.
Hey everyone. So I'm here to, I want to hear what's going on in your world. So I asked to be part of this and just be able to be a fly on the wall, listen in and maybe give suggestions if you've got questions out there. So Kathy, did I say my name? Oh my gosh, Kathy Guthrie at support. So if you need anything, just let us know.
Thanks, Kathy. Appreciate it. You two are my lifelines, by the way. And hopefully, he's not on, but Patrick is also part of our support team, and he is fantastic. I'm sure you've all spoken to him previously. If not, you will get a chance to. Yeah, we are all here to support you as we are talking about TIPWeb-IM, end of year, what that potentially, well, I'm going to even start off with what it typically looks like. Because it may be the direction you want to go this year. And then we're going to talk a little bit about what other alternatives do we have. We've gotten a little bit of questions here and there from customers on what's everybody else doing. Do you have any suggestions on kind of the collection process? So we will end with, after kind of typical closing, having some conversations of what it can look like now. And then we will also kind of end with some suggestions on even ways of you being able to collect. And that's where I'm really going to open up the, for Q&As, really more comments to let us know what you guys are hearing, what you guys are already starting to put into place. So definitely excited to have each of you on this session today. All right, everybody, I'm going to, just so you can focus on my screen, I'm going to, let's see here. So Kathy, Angie, can you let me know, are you seeing the PowerPoint presentation, the agenda?
We sure do.
Awesome. Fantastic. All right, everyone. So as you can see here, one of the first things we're going to talk about, and this is going to be a conversation, definitely as everybody that has done closing is aware of, the end of year process really does rely a bit on your campus level, right? But there are pieces that the district still needs to be aware of, and they need to complete themselves. And so today we're going to really kind of talk about both. We don't always do that. Sometimes we try to break them out. But in this scenario, especially with the type of conversation we will be having, I wanted it all included. Now, just a quick note is you see here, I'm talking about district, the closing piece, and about campus end of year. There are some things that will be mentioned, like in step 6 on my screen under campus, you see audit. We're going to talk about that a little bit, but know that that was actually covered in a completely different series. We had a TIPWeb-IM audit series, which is out there in our support center. So make sure to, when you're ready for audits, to take a peek at that. So today's focus is really about closing the district piece, and then the campus, as you see here, which we're about to dive into a little bit more deeply. So district, really there's one big piece for you. That is going to be under closing to remove archive consumables, straightforward. We'll talk about what that looks like, and we'll actually walk through the application here shortly. Campus level individuals, and this is good for district and campus to be aware of. What are those steps really that need to take place to ensure that that kind of end of year has been closed out to a certain extent, so that you can be ready and prepared for the following school year. So as you see here, I have typically 6 steps, and actually I will have a document to follow up with that will be specific to, and we'll kind of refer to it here and there throughout this session, but that you can refer to later as to, okay, what's my next step, staff? There's also some additional documentation. I actually put one of them into the chat window, which is the campus end of year process. I'm actually going to, here in just a moment, show you a couple of others that I will be sharing with you as well. But let's first finish out the campus process. So we are going to look at collection, what that can look like. Also some reports that will need to take place after to find out who you have not been able to collect from yet, as well as then running the closing piece for those lost distributions. And this one's going to play a big piece this year as we're looking at ways to collect, right? Also running those lost book letters. Again, a majority of these are really, they can be either for students or the teachers as well. Today's focus will definitely be about students, but we'll kind of cover both as we're walking through the program. And then removing and archiving your book histories for those students and teachers. Step 5 is remove, archive those cleared individuals, so those that won't be coming back in the following year. And then 6, we will kind of just high level talk about some pieces with the audit process where you get to do that physical count of your materials on your campuses. All right, so I'm going to go ahead, actually, I'm going to bring up some additional materials, everybody. Great. Okay. So you should be seeing a PDF that says District TIPWeb-IM. If you are not, please let me know. I'm going to start with this one. So you will have a link that will have all of this materials. I will tell you, they are all actually in the support center currently as well. So if you go in and typed in end of year or closing especially, you will be able to find these as well in the support center. But we have the District TIPWeb-IM end of year and / beginning, because some pieces kind of can relate to end of year or beginning of year, or really potentially both, such as the and I just lost my train of thought. What I just mentioned about clearing out your students. There we go. So I'm not going to walk through this in detail, everyone. I do want to show you, you do have support that gives you some great detail as a step-by-step process as you're looking at closing out the year. So some pieces such as, of course, audits, as you see here. It even talks about those pieces about adjustments. So your campus adjustments, as well as you kind of creating an audit adjustment and finalizing your inventory, so at the district level. But the key piece here is it does talk about closing as well. So as we are walking through closing today, here is the remove, archive consumables that we will definitely be focused on. So I'm not going to go through this in its entirety, but know you have this as a great support document as you are working through these processes later on your own. Additionally, we have the IM campus end of year. And let me just show you the front page so you see what it looks like. It'll tell me campus here. End of year closing. Now, this is where we're going to have a majority of our focus today. These are all the pieces we've kind of already discussed of collecting via quick data entry, doing some reporting, changing the status, distributions to lost and so forth. So we will definitely have some focus here, but this document will walk a campus level individual through the entire process from the very beginning to the end and have those conversations of, you may want to do this, but you do not have to, because definitely something to note is when we are looking at all of the opportunities that you have in closing, they are not required in any means. We definitely recommend certain ones as we're going to work through today. But then there are some that you just may not need to do, especially when you're looking at teachers. And a lot of times you only do kind of classroom sets and so forth. So the teacher aspect may not be relative to you. So just being able to make those decisions, the the document, and does a really great job of walking you through that process. All right, everybody. And then there is a new document. Sorry, let's make that a little better. That is just called End of Year Closing and Navigating Collection During COVID-19. And so this is going to be something we will refer back to here in a bit as we walk through the district and campus closing process, typical process. And then we're going to dive a little bit into, deciding how we're going to collect for this year, what that's going to look like, some methods that potentially may work for your district. And so we'll walk through this document here shortly. All right, do I have any questions before I dive into the application? All right, great. So I'm going to go ahead and open my, oh yes, I was pulling up documents for us. Great, everyone. I am currently logged into the TIPWeb-IM application at the district level. One way that I definitely know that is I have the opportunity to verify campuses here. So it's very quick and easy to kind of notate ways that you are at that district level. I also have the opportunity to quickly do what is called view switch over to another campus if I need to, which we will here shortly. So one of the first pieces that I want to talk to you about is closing at that district level. So I'm going to go ahead and just dive right into tools and closing right here for the district. Now the district's closing looks quite a bit less, I guess you could say, than the campus level. I have two options here: consolidate campus transactions. Now this is the opportunity where you can remove requisitions and adjustment transactions, and they will all actually become as one transaction for an entire year. This is definitely something for the district to discuss and decide if it's even something you would like to do, because you will lose the detail of each transaction within the application. So I'm not going to focus on that one today, but one that you really are going to want to kind of focus in on is remove archive consumables. So that second option that we have right here. So this is the process to zero out all distributions to campuses, as well as zeroing out inventory at the campus level. Why this is so important is because you are, of course, purchasing those consumable items, those workbooks potentially, and they're, of course, being sent over to the campuses. Now, sometimes it can depend, again, on the need at the campus level, but they may not, either need all of the workbooks that they received, so maybe they didn't end up getting the head count that they expected. Sometimes it will, they maybe do more of a partner type scenario, and a couple of students will possibly share. There's varied reasons as to why they may not utilize all of the consumable item, workbooks, let's say, that you do send over to them. So with this option, when you say to remove and archive consumables, this will take place at the campus. It will zero out all their consumables. Then, as we're talking about the audit piece a little bit more, we'll get into it too. When you go and you create your audits, now there's a couple of ways that you can look at creating audits. A lot of times we do recommend doing consumables separate. So a separate audit specifically for consumables, and then an audit, of course, for your teacher and student editions as well. But what is fantastic if you do it separately, as so, one for consumables, one for teacher student editions, or even combined, when you zero out those consumable counts, then when the campus level goes in and they count each of those workbooks, let's say, or those consumable items, they are going to put an accurate actual count in their audit. This then will help you for purchasing for the next year, right? Because if they happen to have extras for some reason, that may be a handful, a dozen plus of consumable workbooks that you will not have to purchase additionally this coming year. So it just helps, again, with, as we're always looking at our fundings and ways that we can allocate and streamline that process. So definitely very helpful as you're looking at the next year. So it's very straightforward. Just as a reminder, since I was talking a little bit there, I came into my tools, closing, and then I will click on remove archive consumables. It tells me this area is designated to archive consumables. Proceed to the ISBN limitation section screen. Date, it will be all, campus all. So I'm gonna go ahead and click on the little blue icon with the arrow pointing to the right for next. All right, so now when I come in to archive my consumables, there's definitely a few things I can do. So I can, of course, utilize the search to search for a specific item here if I would like by all, ISBN, title, SLC. Below the blue grid header here, I have the list of all of my consumables within my district. Below that is going to be those specific consumables that I am planning to zero out or archive. So then I can get some great information, similar to what we saw with search, right? ISBN, title, SLC, inventory. So here's my quantities, how many are in use, and how many I show as in storage at the district. Now, over to the right of storage, I do have this little blue icon pointing down. That is how I can actually add those specific ISBNs or consumables down to be removed. If I want to say, you know what, I want all, so I could just say add all. There we go. And you notice my grid above is cleared out, and now I have all of my listing right below. Now, if I realize there's one or two, I can still always remove and or add as needed. So great opportunity for myself to kind of adjust as I see fit with all of my consumables. I'll just do them all. And give me 1 second here. Just to be safe, I'm gonna grab one. Okay, so then as easy it was to add all, I just go right over to my little green go icon, click on it. Now, something I do appreciate is it's going to kind of stop me for a second and, you know, say, Steph, hey, are you sure you want to do this? Because it is permanent and it will delete those consumables. I'm in agreement, so I'm going to type in agree there. And I do believe that is case sensitive, by the way, and click OK. It's going to run its process. And now, as you see here, success, processing is complete. So I have now archived and or removed all of my consumables at my campus level. So again, this piece is going to be very beneficial when that audit aspect comes into place so that you'll get a more accurate count of those consumables when the audits are then submitted to you. Alrighty, there we go. All right, everyone, so I'm going to continue on. I will show you a little bit more about audits here as that last step as we're kind of talking about closing out. So do know that I will kind of chat about that a little bit more. The next item, and I'm going to actually bring up my agenda again, is we need to talk about collecting materials. And then we're going to talk a little bit about printing some reports that can support those that have not been collected yet. So we're going to dive into the campus side of the end of year closing process. I'm going to go ahead and go to home, and I'm going to view switch over to my Learning Campus High School. So right away I know I'm on Learning Campus. It lets me know right here. I also now have teachers and students, which I do not have on the, of course, that district view. I know you guys are all like, Steph, we know that, but the trainer in me always likes to show those pieces. So I'm going to go right into tools because that is where I will find closing. So I'm going to click on tools. And under global tools, I have closing right here. Once I come into closing, oh no, goodness sakes. I am way off, aren't I, everyone? Let me go back to home because I'm already hopping to closing. I need to collect, right? And again, we're going to talk about the scenario of collection during this time frame here closer to the end. I'm going to show you how to collect via a session number so that you can quickly get those textbooks out of the student's hands, so to speak, and collected into within the application. So there's a couple ways you can do it. One of the quickest ways is when you're on your dashboard under quick links, quick entry. Got to make sure I'm doing the process right. So then I need to choose type of data entry. Very easy. You're going to want to go ahead and choose collect by a session. And then you'll select go over to the right here. So then you will, one of two things, of course, hopefully you'll be able to scan the accession number that is in the textbook. And I actually am going to just hand type in here, but you will hopefully scan. when you scan, it's going to do a hard return for you. I'm going to do that myself and or click on the green diskette. There we go. Gives you a nice little audio indicator. Definitely appreciate those with TIPWeb-IM. So over to the left, displaying the last successful scan. So you will see it was actually, here's the ID of this student, Kristen M. Abbott. It is a Glencoe Algebra Concepts and Applications Texas edition. And here's the accession number that I utilized to actually collect for. Above that blue grid header here, I can actually pull what's called today's receipt, as well as a full receipt. Now, in normal times, you may want to quickly pull the today receipt. Let me show you real quickly, where you could potentially, you know, if you're printing out, you could hand to the kiddos. Definitely in this this day and age, things may be a little bit different, but this is what that actual transaction receipt looks like. It'll have the student information. It's going to have your campus information, some great additional pieces such as their grade level, and it even lets them know it's the textbook receipt here and the date. And then it's going to go ahead and give me those textbooks that have been ever issued out to me or distributed. So you'll see here's the title. It'll let me know the status here. I think that's definitely crucial. So it lets me know, yes, those two were collected. I don't owe anything to my school for these specific textbooks here. So great opportunity to kind of look at ways to ensure that the individual is aware that you have collected that textbook within the application. Now over to the right, book history. This is going to be any textbook that has been distributed out to, again, Kristen M. Abbott here. Actually has her name there as well. And you'll see I do have one in red right already that says it's lost. So there has already been a textbook lost that had been in Kristen's hands at one point. Over to the right of each of my textbooks, I have an opportunity to quickly change the status. If she brings it back to me and says, oh no, actually I found it, here it is. Of this specific Glencoe algebra, which probably is the same potentially. Yeah, there you go. That probably will not happen for you, by the way. Training. And then of course, if you do charge, which I'd love to just get a little note in the chat window for those that actually charge for textbooks. And what do you charge for? Do you charge for just some markings, highlighting, or do you only charge for those books that have been obviously damaged by the individual or just completely just lost, as this one shows here? So you do have the opportunity. Again, this is the typical world when you have the time to do those pieces. As I mentioned earlier, we'll talk a little bit more about what it looks like during the current climate that we are in. So collection overall is pretty quick and straightforward. It's just ensuring that you have, of course, the textbook that you need and you're able to scan that accession number. And so you could have potentially a line of students. You could have, you know, some other way that you have the books kind of brought to a specific location, and then you can just scan them. So just know that we'll talk more about that here shortly. But so then the next step is collection. All right. So after you have collected, there is going to be, of course, I mean, it's just nature. And I think in the current kind of climate that we are in, we may even see more of those textbooks that we did not receive back during collection period. Now, of course, some of those end up finding their way back even after the fact, right? Closer to the beginning of the next school year, that sort of thing. So just, you know, there is that opportunity that they may potentially come back. But I think in this current year, especially, there is going to be some chances that we may not see, or your districts will not see all those textbooks back. So the next piece, after you have gone in and you've done your collection, you want to go ahead and run a report. So again, I'm still on the my campus view, so Learning Campus, and I'm going to go to Reports. Now, I do appreciate how it breaks out all the various types of reports for me. I'm going to be honest with you, I appreciate just clicking on all reports so I can kind of peruse through the list of reports here. So there are two reports that are kind of in relation to that end of year process when you're looking at distribution reports. One's going to be for students and one's for a teacher, and they are both that textbook status report. So I'm going to go down to S for student, textbook status report here. Now over to the right, and for those of you that are not fully aware of the filtering capabilities and the report options, whenever you see the little funnel here, that means, of course, that I have the capability to do some additional filtering before I actually run this report. And at times I can just pull a CSV and or really Excel spreadsheet with the data. So it'll be everything that's related to the student textbook status report. As you see here, actually grayed out is the PDF option for this report. So in this specific report, on the initial report landing page, I can pull a quick CSV, or I can do some filtering, which I definitely want to talk to you about filtering, everybody. So I'm going to click on it. So when it comes in, it will just remind me of which report I'm on. Again, Stephanie appreciates that because I may forget. There's a lot of things that actually take place on the reports page. I'm not going to dive into all of them, but you do have some opportunities for different filter sets, as well as sorting and even a summary. I'm going to just focus on the basic filter sets that I have here today. So please select report filter. One of the first things that I want to do is I want to specify the status. So I need to look at status. It's going to change my opportunity here to still distributed. So that will let me know which of the textbooks are still displaying as distributed, so that I can potentially go and try to maybe a little bit more on my own, go and obtain or have conversations with individuals. Now, speaking about that, there are times when you may want to even do this piece before you do a typical closing, so closing out for all. It may be that you want to do this piece just for your 12th graders, for those individuals that will be graduating out of your entire district. So you want to be able to see those that have not, after collecting, have not turned in their textbooks, so that you can look at other methods to hopefully obtain those textbooks before you never see those students again, probably. So one additional thing I would do in that scenario is my status distributed, and I also want it to filter out for my grade, and I'm going to select 12. So now when I run my report will be specific to 12th graders with textbooks that are still distributed out to them. Now here I do get the opportunity to do the Excel as well as a PDF, which is fantastic. I'm going to go ahead and do the Excel. I actually think I have one open, but I'll just pull up this one for us. There we go. All right, everyone. So this has some really great information. Student ID, student information. Here is that 12th grade only. It gives me information about their homeroom. Of course, the textbook. So ISBN, title. Here's that accession number as well. Helps me with that collection piece, right? As well as the date and the price, and then that status as you see here distributed. So I have filtered down my report, and these are going to be, which is a significant amount here, count of over 1,000, almost 1,100, that still have textbooks that are distributed out to them. So that is definitely something I want to kind of review as I am looking through the process of collecting, and then at some point here shortly I'll be then moving during closing these textbooks to the status of lost. So I want to do my best to first, just to make sure I reiterate that, to do my best to try to obtain or collect these items before I, of course, run that the next piece that we are going to cover in closing, which is changing distributions to loss. So see, I did have one open there. I'm going to go back. All right, so then I will go to tools, closing. So now I'm at the right place, everyone. I hopped to that a little bit quickly last time. When you come into closing at the campus level, you'll see there's two areas. I have student and I have teacher. Just a reminder, I'm going to focus in more on the student area. They really are overall mimicking the exact same options, just whether they're student or teacher. So with student, change student distributions to lost. So I'm going to select this. So this opportunity gives, and actually here, we'll just see what it says here, is designed to change the status of distributed student books to lost. Of course, I can do some limitations that we're going to look at here briefly here in a moment. And then to change the status of all books still distributed to students from a status of distributed to lost. So just to recap again, this is saying after collection, you've done all that you could, you ran your report, which is that student and or teacher textbook status report. I had to make sure I got that exactly right. And we've obtained all that we could from individuals, and these are still the ones that are sitting out there as distributed. We're not able to get those back. This is then going to start the process where you'll be able to, one, change the status in bulk for a lump of sum of individuals, and then from that, our next step will be to be able to then print out those lost book letters. So as it mentioned here, I can specify some limitations if I so chose. I could say specific date range or even prior to, so I could say prior to today potentially. I could say a specific title. If there was a title that I needed back specifically, I could designate that. And then again, I could do grade, which I want to show you this one because if again we were looking at maybe right now all I'm going to do is my my seniors, my 12th graders, so that I can try to obtain those textbooks back from them. Right here in the center, please select, and I'm going to choose 12 here. So it's saying that I'm going to move all 12th graders who still have distributions, so they still say distributed, they're going to now move to this status of lost, as you see here. I have all dates, all titles, and just 12th grade is the filter set that I have chosen. So once I'm ready, I'll say go. And just another nice little indicator to remind me, are you sure? Yes, I'm good, I'm sure. And it's just thinking for me real quick. All right, it lets me know success again and okay. All right, everybody. So now we have moved, and just a reminder, all of those students that were 12th graders, if I were to go run this report now, these would say lost instead of distributed. So we have now moved them all over from distributed to lost. So my next step, actually, I'm going to show you guys, just to make sure that we're on the same page, is step 3. Print lost book letters for student and or print for teachers. And there is an opportunity for the teacher actually to do a receipt as well. And I will actually show you under reports where you can pull those receipts. So I am still in the closing piece. I'm actually going to go ahead and go over back to tools. And by all means, everyone, if you do have a comment or question, you're more than welcome to hop in. So just know that under global tools, form letter editor, I'll select that. Now, one thing to note is the district can actually create their own form letters that can be, of course, just pushed out to the campus. But each campus can actually also have their own letter as well of varied topics. So you'll see here I have a couple of defaults. So I have a default letter, English and Spanish. I'm just going to show you what that looks like real quick. So these are TIPWeb-IM default templates. So here is just the student information, those titles specifically, and if you look over under type, it's lost. So this is a lost report that you can, of course, customize, which we're going to see here shortly, that you will be able to do one of two things, of course, print out. They do fit in those window envelopes, and or you could also kind of break them out to email out as well. So these are the defaults. Now, one thing I want to talk about for this year is there is potentially a need to have a special end of year letter or lost book letter, right? So just know that anytime you go and click on edit, it's going to have you create a new form letter. And so I will need to put in a description. So just for fun, I'm going to say textbooks to lost, just so that we can see what it looks like. Again, the title or description is only for internal purposes. This piece would not go out to your students or your teachers or anything. So then the letter of the body, this would be a great opportunity if there's something that's different this year than in typical years that you could actually place here. So just know that this is an opportunity for you to start to customize for the specific year. It could be additional options for collection, what collection will look like for your district, as you know, you're looking at those ways that you're going to try to do it in a safe manner and so forth. So you have that opportunity to customize for maybe specifically for COVID. And then once you click on save, oh goodness, that's where it was. Sorry, that's my description. I'll do the same for my name. Okay, it lets me know my letter has been saved, and I'll go ahead and do my previous page. And now I see textbooks lost for COVID. So now I do have my form letter specific to those lost textbooks during this kind of climate or this phase. I can quickly edit. Again, it'll create a new and or preview it. And of course I can delete these because I have created these here. All right, so that is the third piece. And actually, since we're talking about reports, everyone, I'm going to show you those reports when we're looking at the teacher receipts. So let me go ahead and go back to reports as well. Because so for teachers, you might do receipts. Let's see, reports, all reports. So this will be under teacher, textbook receipt right here. You can definitely filter down, you know, for information that is relevant, especially that lost aspect. I'm not going to dive into it, but the opportunity to specify lost and so forth. So I just want to mention that. Now there's some other pieces we are actually going to cover today. It is in all of the supporting documentation that I have mentioned to you. I want to make sure that we have time to kind of chat about the current state that we're in. So the other pieces are going to be remove archive book history, as well as remove archive cleared history. So these two pieces, you can find more detail about those in, of course, the supporting documentation. But we're not going to cover these two because at this time, they really, I do not believe to be completely relevant as to the need for closing. So I'm going to go ahead and continue on and talk a little bit about audits, if that's okay with everybody. So audits, the two things I just want to remind you of, the process flow is going to be, of course, after that district piece of consumables. So you went and zeroed out your consumables. And then when you come into audits and your campuses start to conduct their audits, they will see a 0, and I'll just show you what it would look like inside. I'm not even going to look for a specific consumable, but in the inventory quantity, you'd see 0 here. So one thing to note is you probably will not, for at least that consumables audit, when the district is creating, they will want to make sure they don't check that option of do not include textbooks with a quantity of 0. So definitely want to make sure of that. And then, so you could either do a separate consumable audit, or you could have the combination with your student and teacher textbooks, but definitely run that piece first. And then, of course, your adjustments at the campus level and the district level. All right, everybody, so I'm actually going to now bring over, bear with me there. I have quite a few, there we go. Perfect. All right, so let's now hop back over to the Navigating Collection During COVID-19 document. We have covered all of this here that we wanted to. I now want to talk to everyone about this specific year. I've kind of been touching on it here and there, but I really want to focus on it. As you see, I have decided when you will be collecting. So for those of you that feel comfortable, please go ahead and unmute yourself, and if you want to speak, or put it into the chat window. But please let me know what you're planning or what your district's talking about. So are you looking at distributing, goodness sakes, collecting here sometime at the end of the school year, air quotes, or are you going to be doing, sometime within the summer? Or are you just the school district saying, you know what, we are not going to even think about it. We're going to figure out a process where we're going to do both. We're going to collect and then potentially distribute either at the same time or shortly after each other. So really the first thought is, of course, the when. I know a lot is up in the air at the moment as districts are still, starting to say we're not coming back or not. We're starting to see kind of a slow trickle. Some said right away early on that they weren't coming back, and we're seeing other districts kind of holding out a little bit. So then collection methods, everybody. So as a team, we kind of have pulled together information we'd heard from districts that we've spoken with, and of course also just our general thoughts as we're trying to brainstorm what are some methods that you would be able to collect. So as you can see here, one may be that you have some sort of manned collection process where you have a student and or parent come adhering to social distancing, of course, as much as possible. And then you have the student open up their own book to that accession number, and an individual has a computer and they scan it and the student moves on, so that you are quickly actually collecting during this time frame. Definitely there'd be a lot of kind of safety measures that you would have to adhere to, I'm sure of, but the overall concept is you would not touch the textbook in any way, just the student would. And then there's a couple of things with that that I'll mention here in a moment about ways to then kind of hold those textbooks. So another opportunity would be you have a drop-off location for students to leave their textbooks. And then after a designated period, you go to that location and then you can scan each textbook via that quick entry, collect via accession number. So those are just a couple of options that we have kind of thought through as a team. We would love to, again, hear any of your input. So please, again, type those in to the chat window if you would like. All right, so then with both of those scenarios, we need to talk about, okay, well, how are we going to actually get those textbooks into a location where we have to, have as little interaction with them, if really no interaction. And so one idea that we had was, hey, maybe you have some carts of some sorts, and the carts are labeled with your campus or your school names. And then you just tell students, okay, maybe there's time slots, and they come through their certain time slot, of course, adhering, again, social distancing, and they go and they say, that's my campus, and they go and they just place that textbook on the carts. And then once the collection process or time frame is complete, more so, individuals may just push those carts into some sort of location, an office, a storage room, just right in the front doors of the campus, warehouse, wherever it is that makes sense for your school, and then you wait an appropriate amount of time. It could be a couple of weeks, or longer, that your district says, okay, now they should be okay for you to go and start working on them. The other, as an additional kind of safety option, is you could have somehow provide Ziplocs for the students. So they come, maybe they put hand sanitizer on, they grab a Ziploc, they walk up, open their book, you scan the accession number, they put their textbook into the big old Ziploc, close it up even, and they again put it either on a cart or maybe in some sort of boxes that are labeled with their specific campus. Those are definitely some crucial pieces, as it's going to be much more helpful for you to have it broken out by their campus than just a free-for-all and all campuses are just stacked together. That will be a bit of work for you coming back later on. And then one other thing that's somewhat new Not everybody's heard about it, but Hey Software is partnering with an organization for sanitization services. And this company does it all. So they could either one, just come and do the cleaning aspect or the sanitizing, but I've heard rumor, we'd have to get detail if it's something you'd be interested of, even the process of collecting as well. I'm sure there's other services out there as well. We just are trying to do what we can to support you. So of course, by all means, we'll support you in any way. If it's if you find another third party, of course, we definitely are back this company that we're utilizing, just knowing that what their processes are. So if that is the case, you can reach out to your CSM or to the amazing support team too. Our CSM team, or customer success team, is amazing as well. So make sure I denote that. But those are some opportunities, everybody. Do I have any questions? Yeah.
We have some feedback from Tammy at Bernie ISD on some of the things they're doing.
Oh, great.
In the chat.
Thanks, Ange. Hey, Tammy, and I'd love to hear what you guys have. So I'm gonna read this unless you want to talk.
You can read it.
Okay. So Bernie ISD will collect but not inventory or audit until late summer due to COVID mitigation efforts. Students are dropping textbooks off at their home campuses where they will be stored, sanitized prior to handling. And then at this time, we will only inventory consumables that have been in the book room all year in order to be able to distribute to campuses accurately. Oh, that is fantastic. So you guys are really looking at all those pieces that we've already been discussing, Tammy. I appreciate seeing how you're going to kind of still complete the consumable aspect, but you're going to hold off on the actual audits until, of course, after you've been able to do the scanning of, or collecting via the accession number, correct? I'm gonna say that's a yes. All right, and then I'm curious, is anybody else kind of looking at that type of scenario? And one follow-up question I have for you, Tammy, is when you say students are dropping off their textbooks, have you decided what that will look like yet? Are they going to put them in some sort of box are you aware of, or are you just going to have like a table, like in the entryway? Like, have you guys thought about that piece yet?
We have. I don't know exactly what that looks like, because when they drop off, they're dropping off their band instruments, their athletic equipment. So they only want them to come up once and drop everything off.
Wow.
So I don't know what that looks like for all of them, but I know they're going to store it, or we have some electromagnetic sanitizing capability. But I think we're actually just going to let them sit for a while because the textbook coordinators will be off of contract, and we're going to worry about the seniors. I think they're really going to focus on their things to get them before they leave the area, and actually count the rest later. But I don't know the details. I think what we've been doing with our distance learning is they've been putting it in tubs and letting it sit, or using the electro whatever.
And I like that, utilizing tubs as well, not just potentially boxes.
But I think they're having the kids actually place the materials like in the tubs, so that no one here is touching it, and then they take it to the warehouse and either let it sit or run it through the sanitizing process.
Wonderful. And do you know what that sanitizing process is looking like at all?
It's some electromagnetic process where they run it over the materials and it kills that's all I know.
Yeah, I've heard a little bit about that.
For a couple of days. But with textbooks, we've talked about it. If you want to get all surfaces, you'd have to turn them over and turn them over and turn them over. So it's like they're probably just going to let them sit. It's going to be more efficient to let them sit for a couple of weeks or a month than it is to try to sanitize all sides of a book.
Yeah, that makes sense. If it's like something where you have to kind of shift it around to ensure that you've gotten all surfaces.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially all the pages and so forth. Yeah, definitely I'm interested in more of what that looks like.
Yeah, so we are requesting the audit waiver from the state.
Okay, so there's an audit waiver that you have to request?
The board, it's going before the board next week, and if they approve it, then we'll waive the audit and do it in this, when school starts instead of when school is over.
Thank you for that. Yeah, I just saw some, at least for Texas people, the TEA has put out their guidelines recently on some pieces. Wonderful. Well, thank you for that, Tammy. I greatly appreciate that. And actually, I wanted to mention, you talked about, a focus of seniors right now. So that 12th grade, if you look on my document, so my screen, you will see that I have those collection methods. And then option 2 is seniors only collection and closing. And so this is where you would run closing for seniors only, and you would collect materials and print distribution. So all those pieces I kind of hinted at while I was talking about everyone, but specifically to your 12th graders, and then change status of distribution to lost for 12th graders. The form letter only for 12th graders as well. So as you see here, the one thing I did want to talk a little bit about, that's a great method that your district has come up with, Bernie ISD. There is also some suggestions we have, and we've heard a little bit from districts on the textbook side as well as technology side. But being able to provide or request one of two things. Either they've already done the collection and they've gotten the textbooks prior to the graduation, whatever it can look like. And we've heard some interesting ways that districts are trying to find a way to give students that experience of their graduation. So it could be that you potentially collected prior to, so that when it is graduation and they're there for their diploma, that they also receive either their receipt, or that could be the time that you're trying to collect as well, so that it's, you're not having as much exposure. So we've heard both of those scenarios. And then the other thing I really wanted to highlight here is, because again of just trying to keep with the social distancing, it may be that instead of being able to, if you collect all of those textbooks and they're in bins of some sorts, and you don't actually do collection or touch them until later on in the summer, when it would be more safe, that when you do collect them, you could do like a blind kind of mass uniformed email that's a transaction receipt that just says something on the lines of like, thank you for turning in your textbook, it has been received. And then that way, those individuals will at least feel comfortable, like, okay, I just put my textbook in a bin, and how do I know that they actually got it and received it? So following the typical process for the most part, with then also giving an opportunity either during the handing out of diplomas, whatever that ceremony potentially may look like, and or utilizing an email kind of mass distribution of that transaction receipt of sorts. So just saying, hey, your textbook has been collected. So then there's one more option, option 3, which is wait until the next school year. And I think some are doing this, and if you do, great. I mean, it's what makes sense for your district, but you'll definitely still want to do your consumables piece, just ensure it gets done. And then audit in the summer to verify textbooks that have been distributed or remain to be collected from those of the campus. So maybe you're able to get into the campus even, and if you have some of those teacher editions or something, or some lingering that you can kind of collect at that point. And then run closing and campus level when you come back from the summer. So that would be potentially the option 3. And then there's some additional reports. We kind of touched on them, the textbook receipts for student and teachers, as well as transaction receipts that may help you during this period. And then some general notes I have in here. I'm not going to go over those because we're getting close to time, but for you, for later on, is just little reminders. And then here are those links that I mentioned to you. So definitely you're gonna have some opportunity to gain additional knowledge. There's gonna be some overviews, some step-by-steps, even the basics video library that actually has quick little videos, 3 to 5 minutes for each step in the closing process at the campus level. So definitely helpful. You'll get to see all that stuff that I did of walking through each of these later on as well. Do I have any additional individuals that would like to maybe mention how they are planning to, or do you have any questions for others on the session that you would like to propose? Kathy, Angie, was there anything that you felt maybe we needed to cover that wasn't covered?
I'm so sorry. I was talking to myself. Not that I can think of. I think my main thing is what I would like to know from users is there something that we didn't cover that may pertain to what maybe you've heard from the state, or someone else. I think it was Austin ISD put out there, basically the Center for Disease, what their recommendations are. Do we have any insight on that, or has anybody run into, hey, we have to do certain things a certain way that we may be useful for us so that we can share that with other districts that may not be aware of it?
Yeah, thank you for that, Kathy. Yeah, is there anything that anyone on the session felt like, hey, Steph, there's one thing that I wish you had covered as we're looking at, additional live sessions coming up? And or is there any insight that you could give to others on the session? I think right now we're all just trying to brainstorm and glean information from each other this is definitely unprecedented waters that we are all trying to navigate.